So I'm joined today by Peter Lockhart, a well-known solicitor from Ayr. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Edith. How are you? Nice to be with you here today.
I'm very well, and nice to be with you as well. You coping all right during this latest lockdown?
Well, yeah, it's strange times, but obviously we've had this for quite a wee while, so let's hope for better things, in the coming days and months ahead.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's get started with the quiz. Thank you so much for agreeing to take part.
Not at all.
So, first question we've got for you is, if you weren't a lawyer, Peter, what would you be?
Well, I would be a radio presenter. It's funny because in my family, we've either been effectively lawyers or media people. My cousin, he was on work for the BBC for many years. The radio presented the Today programme and then moved to television and presented the 6 o'clock news with Sue Lawley in the late 80s. And it's funny, he's retired now and is a magistrate in Ealing. And then my uncle, who was probably maybe Scotland's first ever DJ, way back in time. And indeed, he got an MBE for his services to broadcasting. So I always had that kind of interest, and I was quite lucky because I got involved with local radio, and I've been involved with radio for over 30 years. So, yeah, and at one time I was going through my apprenticeship, and I got the opportunity to join the BBC. Were setting up local stations then. They were setting up a station up in Inverness, and I got offered a position there, and of course it would have meant giving up law.
Yeah.
So I spoke to my uncle about it, Howard Lockhart, and he basically said, well, it's a fickle industry. You would be better to get your qualification, and then if that's what you want to do, then go for it. So that was good advice. I mean, once I started law, I really enjoyed that. But I've been lucky because, as I say, I've been able to sort of combine the two. And that really goes back to, a lot of people won't know this, but I did a lot of DJing in my younger days.
Right.
And that kind of started in the 70s. My brother had a hotel here in Ayr, where this was before we had nightclubs and that kind of thing. And it was the sort of hotspot,
Right.
And I always thought, I fancy a shot of this. I'd like to try this. So we put me in touch with one of the DJs who's now a good friend of mine, Jim Ewan, and I got an audition and I passed the audition. And then by this time I was up in Glasgow. So we started getting a few gigs up in Glasgow. We did the vet school, and we did a couple of colleges. And then we got a residency in a place right in the city centre, which at that time was called the Saints and Sinners, probably aptly named, I think, for us lot. And it's better known now as King Tut's. So I worked there for many years. And then when I came down to Ayr, about 79, still did a wee bit of DJing, and then got into the local station, West Sound Radio, sort of in the late 80s. So I've been fortunate to be able to sort of do the two. And in many ways, Edith, there are crossovers in the sense that communications is so important to be a good lawyer, but it's equally, important in broadcasting. If you're doing a radio program, you're communicating, and you've got to be able to get that across.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fantastic. And are you currently then doing some radio work? And
yeah, I'm doing with a station. There's a local station in Irvine Beat. So I do a program there. I only do it once a month now, and obviously it's been affected with lockdown. But no, I still keep my hand in. So I think when I come to retire, hopefully I might do a wee bit more of that.
Yeah, absolutely, great stuff. All right. So question number 2 is: did you have a nickname at school, and if so, what was it, and why were you given it?
Well, I've had 2 nicknames. Probably won't surprise you. The first one was when I was younger. My hair was a lot redder than this, so at school I was known as Ginger. And as I've got older, it's been the DJ. One of my partners still just calls me the DJ. So I've had 2 throughout my life. So no guesses for. There's no surprises there how that came about.
Yeah. Oh. Question 3, Peter, is what was your first job? And you maybe touched on that already, but maybe you had others as well.
Well, I actually, my first job, and that was actually something also that led into a bit of DJing, was I was a cleaner at Butlins.
Really?
Butlins had a holiday camp here in Ayr. This is going back to the late 60s. And, in those days, it was amazing. I mean, they would have about 7,000 or 8,000 people staying. And in the summer, that was where we were, 4th, 5th and 6th year would go and work there.
Right.
And there was a sort of about 6 or 8 of us. And I mean, we had such a great laugh there, and it was good fun. And the cleaning we did was sort of public buildings. Right. And around that time, they had a disco there. So our supervisors, we were tasked, there was 4 of us tasked to go and clean that. And anyway, we went in, and when we were in, they would lock the door. We could lock the door. It was to stop people obviously coming in. So what happened was they told us it will take you about 3 hours to do this. So we soon realised actually you could do it in about an hour and a half if you really put your back into it. Then we started playing the records, and they sort of realised that I was actually quite good at that. So I didn't have to do any cleaning. I just sat there and played the music for them. So yeah, it was happy times there though. So. I enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. So, I can still get the buffer out or the mop and shovel and all the rest of it, if need be.
Oh, good stuff. I'm just thinking you probably put on the fast tunes to get them working quicker and harder when they were doing. Well,
that's right. They would be doing the mopping. They would do it in a line, and they wanted some music really to sort of motivate them. So, yeah. And the bosses never found out that. As I say, we would just sit back and listen to music for another hour or so before we moved on. So, yeah, good times. But so that was my first job, cleaner at Butlins Ayr.
Oh, wow. Okay, so moving on then from your first job, question 4 is, what do you recall of your first court appearance?
Yeah, I think that's probably something we all remember. My recollection is, by way of explanation, I did the Law Society exam. So it was a 5-year apprenticeship, and I worked in Joseph Mellick's firm in Glasgow. And it was really at that time, it was really all debt work. So I used to go down to the small debt court was situated in what became Lanarkshire House at one time. I think the High Court sat there latterly and is now the Corinthian. Yeah. So anyway, the day came when Sidney Mellick said to me, right, go down, you just do it yourself. And I was a bit nervous about that, but I'd been there, so I thought it was pretty straightforward. And the sheriff actually sat. I mean, the sheriff would sit during these small debt courts. On this particular day, it was a well-known sheriff called J. Irvin Smith, who a real character. And I think he knew that this was my first time. So we got through the cases, and then there was a particular case where we were suing on behalf of the gas board an individual for £5 because he hadn't paid for his fridge. So, of course, as luck would have it, or as luck wouldn't have it, the guy turned up. And he started going on about the fridge was useless and all this kind of thing. And I remember Sidney had said, look, if there's any problems, just fix a proof. It'll be in a couple of weeks and we'll get it sorted out. So I thought, my lord, yes, I need to take my client's instructions and we'll fix a proof. And the sheriff said, well, that's fine. We'll have the proof this afternoon at 2:00. I thought, no. So anyway, when I came back, and because I thought, well, there's no way I can do it. I didn't know what to do about a proof. So I came back and told Sidney, and he just thought, for heaven's sake. So anyway, he just went down and got it dismissed. But it stuck in my mind. So there you go. Always expect the unexpected, I think, in court.
Absolutely. Oh, dear me. I can just feel your angst at that being announced.
Yes. And I think the sheriff quite enjoyed that.
Oh, dear. Question number 5, Peter, is who is or was your most inspiring colleague?
I think I would pick John Elliott of Lindsay's. I became a council member of the Law Society in about 1997, and at that time John just became president. I didn't know him at all, and I have to say, coming from a rural setting to become a council member and be part of that body, and there were some great guys that were, and women, of course, that were council members at that time. But John Elliott was a really inspiring character. He was a great speaker, and he always got the best out of everybody. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I had the kind of usual route was you would spend time in the different committees before you ever became a convener, which I did. And then he asked me after about 9 months, and he wanted me to convene the Education and Training Committee. And I thought it wasn't really an area I was particularly interested, I have to say. And also too, at that time, the Law Society, there was a lot of change because they wanted to redevelop the diploma. And it was a difficult time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the universities and students were not keen on what was being proposed. And I knew then it would involve a lot of work with universities. And I felt, because I was doing the law, I didn't have a university degree. And I spoke to John about it, and he said, "Look," I said, I don't think I'm the right person for this." He said, "No, you'll be fine. Your great quality is you're a communicator, and you'll be able to sell this." And that gave me the inspiration. Mm-hmm. It didn't stop the nerves. And I remember actually, I got a call from Professor Alan Patterson, from Strathclyde.
Yep.
He was obviously keen to meet who was this young upstart that was taking over education and training. So he invited me out for lunch. And he was great. He just put me at my ease, and we all worked together and we got through it. So yeah, John was a great guy. I really liked him.
Oh, that's a really good story, and somebody that had your back and encouraged you along the way as well.
Yeah, because it wasn't, as I say, it wasn't a particular area I saw myself going into, and again, I did enjoy being involved in that, because not only we kept in touch with the education training people of the Law Society of England, and also Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and we exchanged a lot, and of course we had a lot of good social time. So yeah, it was good fun, and I enjoyed that, and I'm glad I took it. So
that's great. All right. Question number 6, Peter, is how do you define success?
I would define success as probably getting on with clients, even challenging clients, my partners, my staff, my fellow practitioners, and just people I work with. I always remember actually Joseph Mellick. He gave me, that was Sydney's father, and Joseph Mellick was the senior partner. And he told me when I came, because I had to go down to the Sheriff Clerk's a lot. Those days, you had to go down to the process room, and you were adjusting writs and all sorts of things. And he said to me, when you go down there, he said, you'll be dealing a lot with the clerks. And he said, the clerks will know far more about anything than you do. And remember that. And don't treat them just because you're a trainee lawyer that you're better, because you're not. And it was good advice that, because, it's so true. Mm-hmm. I've seen quite often sometimes trainees who have great degrees, etc. And yet when they go into a practical situation, it doesn't always work. So, just remember, good sheriff clerks are worth their weight in gold.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good advice.
Yeah.
Question 7, Peter, your favourite holiday destination?
Well, I'm going to tell you about 3.
Okay.
So 2 are in Spain. The first is Nerja, which is near Malaga on the Costa del Sol. And the other is a beautiful wee place. I think you can see a photograph of the crew up behind me here, a place called La Franc. And it's on the coast. It's near Girona. Mm-hmm. And again, it's got a beautiful beach. And it's a bit like a sort of Cornish little town, because it's got there's high cliffs and mountains on either side. So to get in, the road is quite a twisted little road to get in. So that meant they could never get buses in. So it's never been overdeveloped. Mm-hmm. And it's just a beautiful, just a little Spanish beach place, very popular with people from Barcelona. They come up there for weekends, but it's beautiful. And the third place I would have to say, I've traveled a lot in America. I love America. And I think my favorite city there is San Francisco. Mm-hmm. It's just a beautiful city. And I like it because, it's a kind of city you can get about quite easily. It's, a lot of the big cities like LA and these, they're very spread out. You can really only go about by car, and sort of every street is the same. Whereas San Francisco is easy to walk about or to get the tram or whatever, but it's full of character, and it's, full of art, etc. So it's a wonderful city.
Oh,
there's 3.
Fantastic. I'm feeling, I was going to say nostalgic, that's not the word, but
I'm putting you in the holiday mood.
Holiday. Yeah, absolutely. A beach now is very appealing.
Yeah. Well, we didn't get away last year, so fingers crossed this year. Let's hope. We just don't know, though. That's the thing.
No, that's the thing. All right, question 8. Peter, your most memorable case?
That would be, I think, a case. It was a very difficult case around about 2003, I think it was. And it was dubbed the Ayrshire sexual abuse trial. Mm. And this was a case which, I mean, you've got to remember at that time, there were nothing like the number of sexual offence cases that we have nowadays. Mm. And there were a number of families involved, and the case was being prosecuted in the High Court in Edinburgh. And in those days, I mean, we really were in the dark ages when it comes to the way we treat, or the way we treated child witnesses, etc. And suffice to say that at the end of this case, there was a hell of a hullabaloo about the case, and in particular about the way the children who gave evidence were treated. Now, to be fair to counsel who were involved in that, it wasn't. I don't think it was really anything. There was nothing wrong with the way they did it. But you just got to remember that the whole way the system worked then was quite different. Mm-hmm. So that case, in fact, led to the Vulnerable Witnesses Act in 2004. That case directly was the inspiration of that. So that was certainly a memorable, not a happy case to be in. And it's funny, you know, I've listened to one or two of people who have been involved in your quiz, and you know, it's funny how certain cases do affect you. And you know, it was a difficult case, but I'd like to think that since then, with the Vulnerable Witnesses Act coming in, and obviously the changes that have been made over the years, you know, we're in a better place now as far as I think the treatment of witnesses in our criminal trials, particularly where there are sexual witnesses or child witnesses.
Yeah, particularly children, because they would just have been coming straight into the courtroom back then.
Well, they were. That was the thing. The children had to come in. Mm-hmm. There was no mechanism. They had to give evidence, and that was really what was the downfall in the trial, because it just didn't work, and the children effectively were traumatised by that. So it attracted a lot of publicity, and really adverse publicity, I think, for our criminal justice system, and sometimes it takes a case like that to make the changes that are necessary. Yeah,
absolutely. All right. Question 9, Peter. Who has had the biggest influence on your career in the law?
Well, I'm going to do what Murray did. I'm going to give you 3 people who I think. First of all, was Joseph Mellick, where I did my training. He really was a wonderful guy to work for, and taught me a lot. So, secondly, I would say my father, because my father was a lawyer. I've got 4 brothers, and he was always keen that we get involved in the law. And at one time, which was about 1980, I think he had all 5 sons were working for the firm. Sadly, he passed away in 1974. I was 20. Yes. But he certainly, I think, inspired me. And the firm has been going for 141. I'm actually the last Lockhart, 141 years. Wow. But anyway, the firm will keep going even without me. And the third person, this might surprise you, is Ross Harper. I found Ross Harper an inspiring individual. First of all, he was a great trial lawyer. I always remember he had a very famous trial in Glasgow, and it attracted a lot of publicity. I remember going in just to watch it, and you know, he was a great lawyer, mm-hmm. but also too, he was a great entrepreneur. I mean, he was probably one of the first really big entrepreneur lawyers who created all these branch offices and set that up. Yeah. And I thought that was, you know, because I think, again, you know, we can be great lawyers, but we're not always great business people. And he had that flair. So mm-hmm. that would be 3 I would say have inspired me.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's the thing. We all, you know, there's undoubtedly going to be more than just one significant person in your career as you go along. And it's amazing that you just kind of keep meeting people like that as well. And I suppose a lot of my guests say that different people inspire them every day. But those are your 3 main.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
I'm sure there are others. I'm sure we probably don't always realise that there are people who have, inspired us perhaps to adopt a particular course in our career. But that was the three that came to mind.
Fantastic. All right. Question number 10. Right, number 10 now. The funniest or most memorable court moment?
Well, I better be careful my language here, but this was in a jury trial, and it wasn't actually all that long ago. And it was it was a sexual offence case, and there were a number of charges, and one of the charges related to abuse that had taken place in quite a small local authority house here in Ayrshire. And the defence of the accused was it just didn't happen; it was made up. And as the evidence unfolded on the particular occasion, because it was on a one occasion, that there were a number of people in the house. It was during the day, and they were coming in and out, because it was supposed to happen in the living room, and coming upstairs, downstairs, and doors open, etc., etc. And basically, as I say, the line was, well, no, this couldn't have happened, because you would have seen it, etc., etc. So when it came to addressing the jury, it was before Sheriff Des Leslie. And what I was trying to convey to the jury was, look, this was a very small house, and how could this possibly have happened? So I was explaining to them in my speech to the jury, and I'm saying, well, what I thought I said was, it wasn't as if it was Buckingham Palace. So, and then I went on, in other words, it wasn't as if it was a palace with huge rooms and corridors. Yeah. So that's what I said, and that's what I thought I said. So afterwards, after I completed that and Sheriff Leslie did his charge, as he was coming out, he called me over and he said, did you realise that you swore there in your speech to the jury? I said, no. He said, when you said about the palace, you said, and I quote, it wasn't as if it was an effing palace. So anyway, I said, no, I couldn't have done that. He said, it's on the tape.
Oh, no.
Now, he's never actually let me hear that tape. But the strange thing is, there was no reaction from it, because if I had said that, you might have expected a titter to go around the jury. So either he picked me up wrong, maybe we just need to get that tape. But if he was right, and of course, it just shows you that you could make that faux pas and not even be aware of it. So
absolutely.
Anyway, maybe if there's a juror out there, they can solve the problem.
There's that lawyer that swore at us.
Absolutely. So, apologies if I did.
Oh, dear. Question 11, Peter, is we all make mistakes. What did you learn from a professional error? Well,
another jury trial. People that know me will know that I like to highlight things.
Right.
Okay? So, passages are... So this was a trial which was, again, this time it was before Sheriff Neil Gow QC, and it was quite an interesting case. It was under the Health and Safety Act, and the gas board had been drilling and digging pipes on a roadway. And of course, it was a long straight section of road, and they were supposed to each night what we call cone and barricade it, so that obviously if you were driving along, because it was in the countryside, it wasn't in a town. And tragically, what had happened was on one occasion that when they finished, they hadn't done that. And the inevitable happened, a young woman driving along her car and swerved and hit a tree and was killed. So it was a dreadful, it really was a real tragedy. Mm. So I was acting on behalf of British Gas, and I think it was Des Brown, who's now Lord Brown, was acting for, I think, the charge hand, because I think they were both charged. Anyways, you can imagine these kind of things with health and safety. There were tons of productions which I'd gone through. And obviously I was lodging the defence productions. And of course, I'd gone through and highlighted all the good bits, as far as I was concerned, from our point of view. Yeah. And we were sort of midway through the trial when you know how they get passed out to the jury.
Yes.
And I don't know, Des must have spotted that. And so he then asked for an adjournment, and basically his line was that that had prejudiced his clients because the jury had all these productions which were et cetera, et cetera. So at the end of the day, Sheriff Gow, he deserted the case, and of course I thought, so the Crown re-indicted them, and I was a bit worried because obviously it was a private case. You don't get many private jury trials, and I thought, no way they're going to instruct me for the second round, but they actually did. So there was some good out came out of it, and I think at the end of the day, they were quite happy with it. But yeah, so if you've got defence productions, don't highlight them, because mind you, I do still highlight everything. Everybody laughs at me for that. So
oh dear. Oh
yeah,
good for you.
yeah, so yeah.
All right. Question 12 is, what do you do to stay well, Peter?
Well, I think the most important thing in keeping healthy is to keep the stress levels down, and I'm quite good at that. And I think also, having another interest like radio is good for that. But I'm the kind of person I can go out of the office and I switch off, so I don't tend to stress about things.
Right.
But I'm a member of a gym, but obviously that's not happening just now. So if I'm at the gym, I would do cardiovascular and a bit of swimming and that kind of thing. But at the moment, I try and walk as much as I can. And I'm blessed here in Ayr because I live near the beach. Our courthouse is near the sea, and I walk each day. If I'm going up and down to court, sometimes that will be, it's from the office to the court is about 20 minutes. So sometimes I'll be doing that, 4 times a day. So that keeps me fit, I think. So absolutely. Yeah. So, but just keep the stress level down. That's very important, I think.
Yeah, that's very important. And I think probably exercise, going to the gym is part of that, because you can just totally switch off and you're not usually trying to think about catching your breath or not collapsing. So
yeah.
You're taking away.
Yeah, no, you're so right. You can. I mean, sometimes the gym I go to is in a hotel, which is quite close to the court in my office. I've seen me sometimes go in at lunchtime, and again, and that's quite good because you're right. It takes the stress away. Yeah. And a good workout is good for you. So I'm looking forward to the gyms reopening.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. All right. Question 13. What advice would you give on dealing with challenging clients?
Well, as I said earlier, get on with them as best you can. I think the first thing I would say is you need to suss out that they are a challenging client. So recognise early doors. I remember when I was younger, we used to do quite a lot of civil court work. And my brother said to me, he said, always be wary of people who come in with carrier bags full of paper and they tell you that they've already got a solicitor, but they want to change because you just know that's never going to end up well. No. So yeah, recognise early doors that they are challenging. I think don't allow yourself to be manipulated. That's very important. You've always got to remember that you're the professional advisor. If they don't like your advice, then they can sling their hook. But that's the important thing. So don't let them manipulate you. Other bit of advice: cross the T's and dot the I's. I remember a well-known QC. We were representing a murder accused, and we went to see him. Basically, it was a no-hoper, to be perfectly blunt. Right. But he was a very challenging client. I always remember when we came out of prison, and the particular QC said to me, look, I'll tell you what we're going to do here, and this is the only thing we're going to do. We are going to cross the T's and dot the I's. This man is going to be convicted, but that's what we have to do. And he was right, and it's true. So cross the T's and dot the I's, and I think finally watch your back if they are challenging. Yeah. So, because sometimes difficult or challenging clients it can come back to bite you. So be careful. Yeah. And as I say, if you identify them early doors, then you can always make an excuse not to represent them, and sometimes that might be the best thing to do. Absolutely, I know, but. We've all had them, though, Edith. We've all had them. So that's it. And it's a shame that you have to kind of cover your own back, but that's just what you have to do, particularly where, as you say, you sense that potentially there could be a problem further down the line. But yeah. And watch out for carrier bags of papers. Absolutely. All right. Question 14. Would you recommend law as a career, Peter? Well, my son is a designer, so I didn't obviously persuade him to go into it. Yes, I would. Yes, I would say so. I think you would have to have a passion for it, particularly nowadays. If you're going to be doing court work or advocacy, it's been challenging times. The changes, I think, particularly in the last 10 years in the legislation, have made it a very, very tough landscape. But if you have the passion, it is a great career. I mean, I really enjoy. I've been doing it now for 42 years, and I still have a passion for it, and I enjoy it. And people talk about jury trials, and I thought it was very interesting listening to some of the other contributors, talking about being nervous. And I think that's right. I think we all feel that. And I was in a jury trial, particularly before it starts. Everybody's keyed up: the fiscal, the clerk, the defence, even the sheriff probably. And I always think about it like a ship. Going to sea. Once the jury are impaneled and the first witness is called, we've cast off and we've set sail, and then you just take whatever comes. So yeah, if you've got a passion for it, go for it.
Yeah, good advice. I like that analogy as well with the ship.
It's
before you set sail, it's the unknown, but once you're out there, I suppose, yeah.
Well, there's no turning back then. You just have to go on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Question 15. What aspects of your job bring you the most satisfaction?
Well, as I've mentioned there, obviously, I enjoy the advocacy, but I think probably seeing maybe where you have helped someone. I mean, a lot of our clients, you meet them when they're 16, 17, and you take them through. Most, I would say, by their sort of mid to early 20s, will hopefully give up crime and move on. And some don't. You have them for the rest of your days. I've got one particular client I think I've had nearly for 42 years, which is quite remarkable. But where that happens, and then, years later, you meet them and, they have changed their lives. And it happened to me recently. This was a sort of young guy. He was a right tearaway in his younger days. From about 16 to 24, I was in and out the jail, and I never saw him for a while. And then I met him. Well, I hadn't seen him for 20 years, in fact. And I met him in one of our top hotels here in Ayrshire. And he's got a great job there. And he actually said, I need to thank you because, you told me, look, you don't want to be doing this. You can do best. Because I knew the boy, he had talent, and I felt that he had ability. So that was good, and that was nice.
Yeah,
that was nice.
Absolutely.
To see somebody making something of their life, because obviously in our job, we deal with so many different people, and people have had really tragic lives, and and you just think there's no hope. But it was good to see that somebody had turned their lives around, and there's others as well. There was another day I was walking down the street, and this big bin lorry was coming down. The guy jumped out, and of course I didn't know who he was and why he was approaching me, but he just he said, "Oh, you're Mr. Lockhart." I said, "You looked after me when I was younger." And he said, "How are you?" and all that kind of thing. So and there he was in charge of that big bin lorry and a crew of 2 or 3. So that I like that. I like that.
And it's very often, Peter, you see, particularly with the younger, and maybe more a solicitor, but I remember, younger clients, and you see potential in them. They're some of them incredibly intelligent, even if it is their ability to carry out a crime fairly, well or whatever. You can see the potential, and you see it's so sad to see that ability is going in the wrong direction. And yet
other times you see, I don't know how many times, if you get quite a good result and they've maybe got a prison sentence or whatever, and it's not as long as they thought, and you say to them, look, this is, you've got to change. And when you come out, oh yes, Mr. Lockhart, well, this is it. I've done it now. It's not going to happen again. And of course, what happens, they're back in type thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes
human nature. We see it all, we really do.
Definitely, I know. Well, that's nice. You've had a few come back to thank you.
Yeah.
Question 16 is: what skill do you think every lawyer should have or learn?
Well, I think communication. I think communication is the most important skill, whether that be with your clients, your staff, or sheriffs and judges. And I remember this is many years ago, but we took on a trainee he was a really, really clever guy. He'd got first class honours, and he could spout off cases left, right, and centre. Anyway, one day we asked him to see this woman client of mine, and she had received an eviction order from the council. So anyway, he took her into the room, and a short while later, I was going down the corridor, and she came out, and I was chatting away to her, and I said, "Well, how did you get on? Did you?" Yeah. She said, "No, Mr. Lockhart. No, I'm not really happy because he told me about all these cases. He kept quoting cases. I just wanted to know, am I going to be able to keep my house?" So I dare say he had quoted lots of law and lots of case law, which just went totally over her head. Yeah. Whereas really all she wanted to know is, would he be able to help her to keep her house? So communication is so vital. And I think, it's important to, not just in the verbal communication, but I think also to, in the written communication. I've been involved in the legal aid quality assurance scheme from its outset. Indeed, I've been a committee member, and it's been really interesting, I think, to see peer reviewers picking up, for example, really good examples of solicitors writing letters to clients, in language that they understand. Whereas you get others writing the language, they wouldn't have a clue what it meant, Mm-hmm. So communication is vital, absolutely vital. And likewise, if you're not a good communicator, then sheriffs and judges and juries will switch off. Yeah. Simple as that.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay. Question number 17. Your favourite chocolate bar?
Well, I'm a chocoholic. I mean, I've got, in the cupboard here, I've got a box full of chocolate. I love chocolate. And at this time of year, of course, the cream eggs are out.
Right.
I love that. However, my favourite, I think, would have to be a chunky Kit Kat. And there's a story behind that, okay? And this goes back to the Law Society days. So one year, myself and Douglas Mill, who was the chief executive of the Law Society at that time, and there were about 4 of us were invited over to Dublin because the Law Society there were opening their new law school. And in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, they did it differently. They did the practical training. The Law Society organised that. So this was a big deal for them. We were invited over. And it was a great occasion. And Mary McAleese, who was the president, was there. And I met her, lovely lady. And, of course, good old Irish hospitality being the way it was, the president invited us back to Law Society HQ, to his room there. And I always remember this. I was always amazed that in the president's room, first of all, he had draft Guinness, because he said, "Would you like a pint of Guinness or whiskey," or whatever it was. Anyway, cut a long story short, let's just say we enjoyed great Irish hospitality. The next day, and of course it always is in these things, the next day the flight back was sort of at dawn o'clock. It was in the early hours on the Sunday morning. We were all feeling a bit, and it was Douglas Mill. We'd got some coffee. I said, "Take this." It was a Kit Kat, chunky Kit Kat. What a treat, Edith. It worked.
Revived you for the flight.
So I've got Douglas Mill to thank for that, and I still buy them to this day.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So you like cream eggs, Peter, do you?
I do, yeah. And of course, it used to be you couldn't get them. They didn't usually come out till about January, but now they come out before Christmas. Yeah. So of course, I buy them up. I was at Morrison's today, so I got a pack of 6.
Quite right. Oh dear. Question 18. What job would you be terrible at?
Oh, well, that's easy. Cooking, or a cook. Hopeless at cooking. My partner Marvin, she's a great cook, so she does the cooking. Mm-hmm. And of course, with me, with my Butlins and my OCD cleaning days, I do all the washing up and cleaning up. So we're a good team. She's a great cook, but no, I would be hopeless as a cook.
Oh dear. Oh, question 19 is, what is your favourite animal? And if you have a pet, they're to make an appearance on the screen. Well,
my favourite pet is Willow, our wee dog. Do you want me to go and get her? Call her through? Yeah, just Willow. 2 ticks. Yeah. Right, up, come. Say hello. Oh. So this is Willow. Uh-huh. she's a cockapoo.
Right.
And she's nearly 10 years old.
Oh, is she?
So, yeah.
Oh, she's looking very well on it.
Yeah, but she still looks young, so we still call her Pups. But
she does.
She'll be, yeah. You can see a picture of her.
Yeah, I see her photo on the wall as well. So definitely part of the family, Peter, is she?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and again, keeps me fit with the walks.
Well, that's good. I know. I was never one for just going out a walk until I got a dog, and then it's amazing the amount of people you meet.
Absolutely, yeah.
A small village for 10 years, and then didn't know half the folk that lived around here. But no, good to get you out and about and meeting lots of different folk. And then, of course, you only remember the names of the dogs, and you can't remember the people's names.
That's right.
Oh, she's lovely. She's very, maybe it's just her haircut, but she looks more cocker than poodle, is she?
Yeah, I think she probably is. Yeah. Certainly, you take her out, with the spaniels, they're sniffing into everything and, suddenly rush off if she gets a scent of something. And she's quite funny too, because, if she finds something that she wants to keep, she'll scurry home as quickly as possible. She's got a wee sort of den she goes into. And of course, she doesn't want you coming near her until she devours whatever it is.
Oh, she's lovely. And doesn't look 10 at all. She's doing well.
No, she's aging well.
Oh, she is. She's lovely. Yeah. Oh, thank you for showing us her.
Yeah. Right. Well, you can go away now. She'll not never mind.
Oh. So we've come to the last question, Peter, which is, what question should we have included in our quiz?
Well, I thought, given the time, well, looking at COVID, what positive factors from your work experience can we take from COVID? Okay, so because obviously there's a lot of negativity and there's a lot of bad things with COVID, but what are the positive things that perhaps we have learnt? And I think to answer that question, I would say, first of all, use of technology, just like this, Zoom and WebEx and Microsoft Teams. I mean, that's transformed the way we work, particularly as court practitioners, which I think has been good. I think also too, you could say the reduction in that unnecessary court appearances or court time. So often you would be spending hours at court for something that would take 2 or 3 or 5 minutes. Yeah. And I think that's changed. I would also say, which I think is good, although you would probably say, well, you would say that. I think the PIDMs with the meeting with having a meeting now with the fiscal pre-trial summary cases.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of debate over PIDMs and how they work, but I think the actual principle, and my kind of feedback now is that people do think that that's a worthwhile exercise, having 10 or 15 minutes one-to-one with a fiscal is a good thing. And also the ability to work from home. In the initial lockdown, I worked from here because the Ayr Sheriff Court closed. You know how they set up the hub courts?
Yes.
So I was really working from home, which was great in the summer. I loved that. You can go out, a cup of coffee out in the garden and that kind of thing. So, but it showed it could, you could do that. Our office, the court side amounts to quite a small amount of the fee income. We do conveyancing, domestic, commercial, and I've got a partner who's an accredited special in agricultural law and trust and executory. And all of these, we were able to, get our staff working from home, and it actually worked really, really well. Yeah. So, I just think there are, and these are things that will be with us, for days and years to come.
Yeah. And I think probably, as you say, some of them are better. I'm just thinking myself of traveling, taking a day to go up north to do a consultation and then the whole day back. Whereas, and that doesn't work for it's good to see people sometimes face to face for certain things, but for a standard consultation, if you're able to hear each other and see each other and express yourself, then, that definitely works better and it's better use of time, as you say as well.
Yeah. Because I remember pre-COVID, they brought in the ability to consult with clients in prison, by video link. Yeah. And I was a bit worried how clients would perceive that. But again, because most of them are young and they're used to communicating that way. Yeah. And I've never had a single client object to that. And I think living in the air, to go to like some Berlin or Corton Vale or Perth or Saukerton, or Pullman, it was a full day away effectively. So now you can slot it in, you've got your time. And I think that's been a huge advantage, a great thing that. So, again, as I say, there are some positive things that have come out of COVID. I'll be glad to see the back of it, but
absolutely.
Get my holidays back, Edith.
I know. Well, Peter, we've come to the end of the quiz and you've been a really fantastic guest. Thank you so much for taking part.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me. I really appreciate that.
No, at all. And I know that lots of people will be interested to hear your answers and to see you on the quiz. So thank you again. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I hope to catch up with you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Peter. You take care.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye-bye now.